done what is it called? The Barbarian playthrough too. Doesn't mean
Not
you
before
do
me.
one.
They didn't do it.
You were the first one on YouTube.
I looked. When you Googled Barbarian Plus, my video. And then when I put that other video up, both my videos.
I think you should still do a Lionheart.
Well, no, I got an idea. These box, like we get that flight simulator game. We should just do it as a little side series. It's easy to shoot. It takes like 2 minutes. You know?
Yeah, absolutely.
I just saw that sitting here. I was like, that's another one.
I've started the stream.
Just screaming in there. Yeah, those Barbarian videos did good for us.
Yeah. Well, like you said, when you're the first out of the gate, that was good thinking on your part.
Well, I just happened to be a right man in the right place. It's funny because I did one for Prince of Persia and no one gave a crap about that.
Well, nobody gives a crap about that stupid game.
You see they ported Out of This World or Another World over to the Dreamcast? Did you see that?
Mm-mm.
Looks good.
People like that game a lot. I don't understand.
It's really hard, isn't it?
Yeah.
Maybe we're not good enough to
appreciate it.
No, it's not what I was going to say. No.
I think there's also some of that. This was a European design game. So
I mean, I think it's a great. I think it's a really good game.
You got to represent.
I think it's a good game. It's just tough.
To make sure I've actually made our. I'm paranoid all the time now. Okay, we do have a public stream, so that's good. Look at this. I've got the koozie.
Yeah, I see that. I saw. Very good. I saw an email you sent over about the Atari ST. I wish that guy had sent that out a while back, but I'm like, yeah, I'm going to absolutely.
Yeah, I just got it last night, so.
I'm going to mention that. Okay. Barbarian Plus. So far, everything. Did you see this thing Dreamcatcher put up?
About which thing? The Cauldron or the Godfather?
Neither one of those.
Oh.
Unexpected Amiga game nudity.
No.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Starfar. So far, all of our news is the stuff that we did.
Yeah, so.
Let's see here. Oh, I did find this that I need to put up to show you. I think you'll be amused. The new Warp 1260 accelerator cards. Godfather from Dreamcatcher. Okay. Well, we're going to just... I'm not going to go into deep detail on some of this, but I'm going to mention it. I mean,
sure.
Yep, I've already got it queued up, so what the hell.
Hey, Edvin. How's it going, man?
Honestly, there wasn't a ton of news this week.
No.
I mean, we made most of the news. When you...
We made most of the news.
I mean, no, literally. Physically, we manufactured it. Most of the Amiga news was manufactured from our site. Because when you look up Amiga news, I usually look up I'll Google search it. Now, just a group by week. And this way, it's like Amigos.
Now, do you think it's because, like, Google, are you, like, going into incognito mode to make sure Google just isn't knowing that you are a member of the Amigos and giving you
it doesn't matter to me because that's how I get news. So, but I mean, that's not like it like that. Like, very rarely does that happen. We might get in the top 20 or so news stories, but to this week, so every once in a while I just see one where we put up a lot of stuff. It's just like most of it's our stuff. That's
right.
What
yeah, neon sign. You like it, guys? Let me make sure I got the G+. Get rid of the Discord.
This may be a quick one tonight.
Every time you say that, we go for like an hour.
I'm just saying that this one, I mean, I've got not a lot on it. That's all I say. It is what it is. I never heard of it.
Ready?
Yeah, man, that's good.
Okay. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Amigos. I'm John.
And I'm Aaron.
And today we're going to be talking about Out to Lunch. It's the old Dave Coulier bit. Out to Lunch.
I don't know who that is.
You're pathetic.
I know.
Aaron, we got some feedback from last week. We got a new iTunes review from the one and only podcasting master himself, Eric Nelson, a.k.a. The Project.
I know him. I know of him.
He says, I recently bought a new phone and had to set everything back up, including my podcast client. And it got me thinking about the Amigos podcast. It is always the first podcast I add back when setting everything back up. And what could be a better compliment than that? The podcast is entertaining and really makes me want to boot the old Amiga and play along.
Very good. That's our job. Thank you.
No problem. No problem. Yeah.
Oh, not you, you goof. I'm talking to Eric.
Oh.
Jeez. Don't try to steal his glory. That's the worst.
So it's always a good thing if you can leave us an iTunes review. We really appreciate it because it helps spread the show in a way that nothing else does, because the iTunes reviews database is such it's such an aggregate from all of the podcatchers they use it. So
it's an aggravate. It aggravates me that we've got to bow down to these goofy nuts over there because they're the goofs that run it. But thank you.
Yeah.
Well, we're getting kicked down for that.
So we also got an email from 10-Minute Amiga Retrocast.
Oh, yes.
He says, great episode as always, guys. But we were talking about food-based games last week.
Yeah.
We forgot Tapper as a food-based game. Do you consider Tapper to be a food-based game?
Well, it's drink food. If you think it is, then yes. I'm sure we forgot a ton of stuff, to be honest with you. I mean, let's think about it. There's a ton of food games. But Tapper, I will include because it's a good game. I like Tapper and I like root beer Tapper. Either one. I go either way because I like root beer.
Me too.
And I don't like regular beer for the most part. So. You ever played the arcade version with all the actual nozzle and stuff?
I have. I've played it one time. It's awesome.
Yeah, it's so much more fun that way. Yeah. You know, you feel like a big deal.
I mean, I love Tapper in any form, but yeah, and those cabs go for money. They're
beautiful.
Yeah.
And they've got I like the ones that even have the little brass
bar rail.
Yeah.
Yep, that's right.
I love those. They're gorgeous.
Simon Lech left us a message on YouTube. He says, love your videos. Full disclosure. Bleeping loathe the singing. Seriously, why? It hurts my internal organs, including my ovaries, and I am male. Please stop. Cheers, Simon.
Well, do you have a response to that?
Simon, because of you, I'm never going to sing again.
Oh, no. God. Where's this guy live? I got to send him a dozen roses.
Well, you know that's a lie.
And a thank you note.
I'm singing immediately. I'm going to sing more. Right now!
Oh, man. Please. Let's wait till the end of the show.
Jonas O'Brien from O'Brien's Retro and Vintage.
The one and only.
Writes in. He says, how are you guys? Still love your show, and it's great to see the success you're having. I can remember the first episodes, and now you are nearing 200. Wow. Time flies for sure. Yeah, we sure are.
Oh, man.
He says, we should try out this game called Mad TV.
Yes. You know, I think I talked to him years ago about that. Mm-hmm. And it was because at the time, I think we were, at the time we weren't sure there was an English version, but there is.
Right.
Yeah. Do you remember this?
I remember.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah.
And he even sent me an English manual because on Hall of Light there was only a German manual, so he scared up an English version. So
it sounds like our kind of game too.
Yeah. You run a TV station, lots of wacky antics ensue. So.
And O'Brien's, it's funny as we go to these games this month in our Thanksgiving thing, and O'Brien's, a huge chunk of these are from him.
Yeah,
and we gave a lot of the stuff he said away as giveaways because I mean he was. O'Brien's Retro Vintage has been very generous to the show over the years and just sent us oodles of box games and cassettes, sealed stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, so we really appreciate him. He's a good guy too, and his store's got all kinds of wacky stuff in it too.
Absolutely,
so I'd love to go there sometime.
One day we will make the trip to Norway.
Yeah, that'll be cool, man.
So Aaron, that is the end of the feedback section.
Not too bad this time around.
No,
plus the singing thing that worked out good. I like that.
So get on board, little children. It's time for the gamble train. Fire up the news machine, Aaron. Let's hear it.
Okay. The news this week was sparse, if you will. But there were a couple big stories that we'll get into. Excuse me. Let's talk about Barbarian Plus.
Okay.
This game has been talked about and demoed forever, it seems like. Well, it's finally happened. They have released it, and it is available for free to download. That's a good price. Now, it's 6 discs. You can play it from the floppies, You could install it from the floppies, from the hard drive, but I think there's also a hard drive file version that you can download as well. So they got your bases covered. I actually played this in 2 forms this week. I tried the disc version and with the GoTech, and I also installed this on the hard drive.
Oh, okay.
But both worked fine. No problemo. I think you get a bit more action if you have a quicker machine, but I played it and I loved it. Now, one of my first video was on the trusty Amiga 1200, and of course this is a PAL game, so I got the old NTSC lower bottom of the screen cutoff gimmick. Still playable, but irritating.
It brought you back to the old days.
Well, those days stink. Although I'm getting ready to make a valiant effort to do something with the 600 I've got to alleviate that problem. However, the second time I fired this thing up, I played it in Cloanto's Amiga Forever package, and once I installed it on the hard drive, it ran great. A lot of fun. Get the game. I mean, if you ever played Barbarian, have you ever played this before?
Yeah.
Everyone's played it, right? It's just a cool game. You're sword fighting, man.
Right.
And then if you're good enough, you can lop a sucker's head off.
This is really, I mean, I don't know what year Barbarian came out. Had the Street Fighter II craze already hit by the time this came out?
I don't know. We've never covered the Barbarians, have we? That's astounding to me.
Yeah.
Because there's a couple. I know 2, not counting this one. But they did a great job on this. Sound, backgrounds, enemies. It's awesome. It's been since I played the original Barbarian. I honestly don't recall. It's funny, when I played the original, I don't really recall hardly any options. This one lets you pick a fighter. It lets you pick the color of the fighter, what they're wearing, to a certain degree. It also lets you pick, there's like a girl fighter, there's a weird monster. It's all kinds of crazy stuff in it. Of course, it's just everything about it's good music. It's a good game. A great 2-player game as well. So if you're into this sort of fighting game, plus the price is right, you got to give the guys credit for doing the work they did, because they worked on this for a while and released it for nothing. So kudos to them, And it's just, and this thing's gotten a lot of press this week. So it goes to show you. It's in the small pond you can make a big splash if you're one of the people that release some real quality stuff, just like Worthy was the same, very similar.
Right.
Worthy was a really good release. It got a lot of praise, and it's a great game as well. So there's something happening on the Amiga. Hopefully the ball keep rolling.
And this is free if you didn't know. Check it out.
Yeah, it's very good. And anyway, if you want to watch me play it, there's 2 videos up, one NTSC, one PAL. And some people, I've heard different people talk about, in fact, I got the strangest note today. I don't know if you saw it, because I deleted it because it was so stupid. And I never delete anything. But this guy, he got on the video for Barbarian, the one he did on the emulator, and he said, "This video is a fraud." I was like, he goes, "It's a good fraud," or something like that, but this is a complete fraudulent video. This game doesn't run like this. And I typed out a message like, I couldn't fraudulently present a game if I wanted to. My best day.
Now everybody's going to be leaving weird messages, because it's the first message you've ever read on the air from anybody on YouTube.
Well, it's just, don't you find that strange?
I wouldn't have deleted it.
So my guess is, and then he had another video. He goes, "Go here," and it was a video, and I didn't click it.
Maybe it's a spam.
It could be a spam. But the fact that he's like, "This video is a fraud," like it's JFK's assassination. I've went into some work. So anyway, I thought that was wacky. So Barbarian Plus, give her a shot. All right, moving on down the pike here. We're gonna skip that. Let's talk about a couple of Dreamcatcher's offerings this week. The DK man has been up to his usual tricks. Let's go with now this one. This literally popped at the 11th hour. I saw this right before I came in today. Yes, I wouldn't run too much of this one, Bo.
Oh, okay. This one might be a little bit blue.
Dreamcatcher works a lot blue in this one. As he looks at a compilation, and the name of the compilation, Unexpected Amiga Game Nudity.
Oh.
And there's quite a bit of nudity in a lot of Amiga games.
Well, there's quite a bit of teenage boys playing these games. So
that's right.
Some one goes, the other shall follow.
Some of us that never stopped being a teenage boy. So this is a Dreamcatcher video. It is exactly what you think it is. Go check it out if you're that sort of thing. Don't let the little ones check that one out. He had another video up here, and he had a video and a script, which I linked both. He had a good hard look at the Godfather game. Now I've heard a lot about this game, and I know it's beautiful. And I recall it had a very flawed development process.
Right. Well, it's a very, very strange development process.
I believe they originally killed the first game or switched developers.
What they did, the original developers made this game that had nothing to do with The Godfather, and it became out of this world.
That's right. So So you can have a look here and see what Dreamcatch is up to. His stuff's always good. Both those are Dreamcatcher presentations. Just a little bits of news here. But remember a couple weeks ago you asked me about what a bridge board could do.
I remember that.
I was strolling through and bebopping through YouTube, and I came across this fellow who had a PC bridge board in his Amiga 2000, and he was playing CGA Doom on it. I thought that was kind of neat, because I'll be honest with you, I wasn't 100% sure that it could. I knew it could play CGA games, but I didn't like CGA, and so I didn't care. But lo and behold, in fact, also I didn't know there was a CGA version of Doom. I had no idea.
And I mean, like, even if there was and you could, really, why would you?
I don't know.
That thing is
I'm assuming this is legit. I did no investigation.
Okay.
But it shows, I mean, there it is. There's the bridge board, and here's the guy playing it. So you can figure out what you want to do, but it was still kind of neat that it could even do that. I thought that was kind of cool. It shows the
to me, bridge boards are just like virtual reality. You put one of these things in your machine, you're like, look what it can do. Isn't it cool? And then everybody comes to your house and says, yeah, that's kind of neat. And then eventually you get bored and you take it out.
It's not like that. And I'll tell you why. Because you can do work with them. I mean, you were
doing lots of work with your bridge board?
My bridge board wasn't of the quality of that one. But I mean, yeah, you could. I did it for file stuff, like I said, and some editing stuff. It did a good job. Something you're not thinking about, one thing you could do with it, format discs. You don't think about that stuff because nowadays no one thinks about that. But on the Amiga, you could format discs and do something else. On a PC, though, you could do anything else. So you could use it to format your discs. Hey, I know it sounds lame, but it's true. So, but yeah, I thought that was kind of neat. He was playing Doom on his CGA thing. One proper bit of news here, and I think we may have mentioned this, but I finally actually got to see what the heck this was. And it got mentioned in Discord, too. There's a new accelerator coming out for a team out of Poland. Those guys over there, they know what they're doing.
They are masters of the
Yes,
midway.
they are. And so it's the Warp 1260 accelerator card for the Amiga 1200. This puppy's gorgeous, for starters.
Very nice.
And it's what it is, it's going in a different direction. This is a 060 that you can plug into your 1200.
Wow.
Oh, yeah.
So that's what was in the 4000, right?
Well, the 06, I think it depends on them. I'm not sure exactly. No, I don't think, no. I think the 40 was in there, but I don't know. I mean, you could get a 60, I think. I don't know. I never had a 4000 long enough to know that stuff. This thing's going to have memory expansion. It's got an audio interface of some sort, which I'm not sure. We were talking about that in Discord. I'm not 100% sure what that is. It's going to have, like I said, memory upgrade, but an 060. So, it could be nice. There's no price point. There's no distribution. I don't know anything else about it. It was just announced. So that came over. I pulled that off Amitopia. I saw it a couple places. Hey, I wouldn't mind having an 060.
Yeah, man.
Now, let me ask you. This is just for fun, and I know you don't really have a dog in the hunt here. What would you personally vote of car? What would you prefer? Would you prefer, let's say, an Amiga 1200 with a Vampire card, all right, with the FPGA, or an Amiga 1200 with a 060 in it?
Oh, definitely the 060.
Right, and,
no question about it.
Really?
Yeah.
And why do you say that?
Because of the same thing we talk about every week. You know, the Vampire allows you to hook this thing. I mean, like, one of the main reasons it's cool is that, aside from the astronomical performance increase, it also gives you HDMI out. But to me,
and this may give you some sort of video. I don't know.
To me, at this point in my life, if I want to play like actual hardware, I want to play actual hardware. And so I want to be playing.
That includes processors that were never ever made or meant to be in the Amiga, though, because it's sort of the same thing, isn't it?
Again, you're not sure if the 060 ever was in an Amiga.
I'm not. I don't think it was. I don't think it ever shipped with one in it. And I don't know if there was no. I don't know.
Well, you're giving me a choice between two things.
Okay, I'm just wondering if is there a line there?
Yeah.
I'm not trying to tussle with you here. I'm saying, is there a line that separates? Let's just for fun, let's say the 60 never appeared in an Amiga 1200 accelerator. Right? It couldn't be done.
Okay. If all I had was the 1200 and I had a dedicated computer space where I could set it up with the monitor and everything like that, I'd go with the accelerator just because it seems like, in my mind, for whatever that's worth, it's more authentic.
See, that I feel the same way. Mm-hmm. I don't know why. And the more I thought about it, this whole thing is really... it really messes with your mind a little bit, the controversial part, because if none of this stuff was meant to go in there, then what are we fighting about? Basically.
Right. It seems like because there were accelerator cards that were manufactured for the Amiga during the life of the Amiga, that seems like it's more legit. And the thing is, the only reason why I would ever want any kind of acceleration at all in my Amiga is if it made certain games run better.
Because that is sort of the bottom line. I could play... With the exception of the NTSC PAL thing, I can play most everything perfectly right now.
And so if that's the case, I would not want to upgrade my Amiga at all.
You just sell the accelerator, take the money, and go buy something else.
Exactly.
I like it. I like your reasoning. Let's just touch just a couple site updates this week, or new stuff that we released, and we released a bunch of stuff. We mentioned the Barbarian stuff. The Boatster here went to a slew of ZX Spectrum games this week, including... Star Farce, horrible name.
Yes.
I watched you play Star Farce.
It's kind of a horrible game.
Daley Thompson's Super Test, that looked okay.
This thing is the most intense joystick waggling experience I've ever had in my life.
I thought you were going to die a couple times during this.
I mean, and the games are interesting too because it's not your normal track and field style.
No, there wasn't one like Tug of War was one.
Right.
And I watched you play one. I skipped. And you were still doing it. I thought, my God.
The Tug of War is just endless.
And I could see you slowly giving up.
Yeah,
it's like, I'm done with that.
Yeah.
So that looked good. And I believe you also played some mysterious chess game.
Yeah, I played a chess game that came with, it was part of this Spectrum multi-pack of games.
Yeah.
I realized this doing research on it. O'Brien sent us all of these games that were in this pack.
Oh.
And so, and the reason why we're doing this, of course, is during it's Thanksgiving season. It's a time to give thanks. We are playing all of the games that people have sent us over the years. And so you can look forward to, in the coming weeks, me playing a slew of edutainment titles and the computer cookbook.
I saw that. I saw that queued up. I can't wait to see that. Let's see. Do we have anything else? Well, yes. Me and the Brent were back this week. And Boat, we were playing, I'm looking at one right now, setting up on your mantle over there, the old Macintosh.
Never more have I wanted to make an appearance on ARG Presents.
You should have came on over.
I know.
I learned a lot about the Mac from doing the research on that. And I'll tell you one thing. I learned that the Mac had some awesome freaking graphics.
Yeah.
The graphics for Dark Castle were... holy smokes, they were so far off the charts, I still can't believe it. It blew my freaking mind. The control of Dark Castle also blew my mind. We had a commenter that said, like, what are you talking about? Those are standard controls. And he's right. Using the keyboard. But that much said, man, that's a tough game. That's rock hard.
Absolutely.
And the game Brent picked was hard too. But we had a good time. And I think this week, I don't think I know, Boat. We're going to be playing games. We're going to be playing mid-90s DOS games this time around. Brent, I was going to play something from like the early 80s DOS, and Brent's like, I want to play a game from like 96. I'm like, okay.
Oh boy, this is going to be an Xbox episode all over again.
Well, let me put it in perspective. I thought the same thing. Then I looked the specs for the game I chose. You have to have at least a 386 with 4 megabytes of memory. So,
okay.
And you need VGA.
So not quite the retro title.
When you hear like 96 or whatever, you're like, oh my God. Trust me, the leap in computers is unbelievable. That's all I got, Boatster. You got anything to add to that?
I got nothing. Let's move on to this week's title.
All right.
Pierre Le Chef.
I'm glad you pronounced that. It's not Pierre Le Chef.
Well, I just went to France, and that kind of makes me an expert.
Pierre Le Chef is out to lunch, or I'm just going to call it out to lunch. I think that's a good way to go. This came out on the Amiga. See what I did there? In 1994. You had two different versions of this, but they were sort of the same. You had the AGA version and the CD32 version.
Not an uncommon thing at this time in the Amiga's life.
As far as I can tell, I played the AGA version, like as I usually do. As far as I could tell, the only difference between the two is the CD32 version had CD sound, was it Red Book Audio or whatever?
Well, I don't know that one of those things automatically means the other thing.
Well, no, I looked it up, and it definitely had different sound.
Okay.
I do know that. So there you go. So this was now here's something else I found interesting. This was published by Mindscape. Now Mindscape, it's amazing how many good titles they did for the Amiga. You don't even think about them that much. Just off the top of my head, they did the 4D sports games, 4D boxing,
which we've never covered those.
But you've played them before,
never.
right? You've never played any of those?
No.
They did Alfred Chicken, Battletoads, Captain Planet. They did Degeneration. They did Dark Castle on the Amiga. They did the Deja Vu games. So they did a lot of good games. I think they did Moonstone, I think, too. The developer on this, a couple places had Mindscape listed as the developer, and a couple places just had don't know. I looked over the guys that worked on this, and it said that the concept guy was a guy named Steve Lenny. He was the guy that did, he was behind Degeneration, Nightmare, and Moonstone. So this guy had a pretty good pedigree. And I looked, and all the people that worked on this, almost all of them had done a ton of Mindscape stuff. So I'm assuming that this was developed in-house, but I don't want to say for sure because I don't know with 100% certainty. This was not originally released on the Amiga. This was actually ported over from, of all places, the Super Nintendo. The Super Nintendo.
See, that's not what I read.
Oh, yeah?
I read that this was a port from the Game Boy game.
Okay, well, I mean, I guess what I'm saying is this did not originally appear on the Super Nintendo, or on the Amiga. Yeah, it may have been ported over from the Game Boy, but it appeared originally, it was on the Super Nintendo. It actually, amazingly, this did have a Game Boy port. Now, something else I had trouble finding was that Game Boy version must be exceptionally rare. Because I had a lot of trouble finding much information out about the Game Boy version.
It was only released in the EU.
Really, and so your sources tell you that that's where they derived the port. Because I did notice, I looked at the Super Nintendo version of this, and it is not that similar at all.
Right, almost like it's a different set of code behind it.
Well, for starters, it starts differently, different levels. I will say the Super Nintendo level version, in my opinion, it looks far better. It sounds great too, and it looks more polished than this version. So if you're telling me that this came over from the Game Boy, that wouldn't surprise me as much. Yeah, so that probably, again, let's go with that. What do you do in this game? Well, you play as Pierre Le Chef, and you're basically the ingredients for your food. It's almost like a reverse Burger Time. Burger Time, the ingredients for food is trying to eat the chef. Right? In this, the ingredients for food is fleeing, and the chef has to go get the food.
Right.
Now, how do you do that? Well, the first thing you do is pick up your trusty net, or I don't know, it's hard to tell. It's a butterfly net, or it looks like it's a big old, like a fishing net, doesn't it? And he'll net the food, and then he'll carry it around until it's time to dump the food off. Your other weapon of choice is variable. You can get like a can. There's like a bit where you breathe fire. I think you get like Tabasco sauce or something like that, and you can breathe. You didn't see that part where you breathe the fire?
I played every level in this game, and I didn't see any of that stuff.
Yeah, the different collectibles. I'm trying to think what the third one was. There was another one. Anyway, you have these different collectibles at your disposal, and the fire breathing is probably my least favorite because of the distance. You have to be kind of short, and you can also sort of jump on the food.
Yeah, the only thing I ever saw was just the flour. Flinging the flour.
That's the other one, the flour.
Yeah.
So this game supports a 2-button stick, which is good. And I'm going to assume that's they put that in there specifically because they were releasing this on the 1200 and the CD32. And the funny thing about it is, here you've got 2 buttons, and neither one of them jump. So So right away, I'm not as bad as you when it comes to being irritated by up for jump. And I appreciate the fact that this game gives you 2 buttons. In this game, one button does the net, and the other button does whatever special item you've got. But not having a button for jump is... You really need a button for jump in this game. This game requires... Because as your chef goes through these levels, and they're sort of levels that stretch up vertically, and then they scroll slightly to the right and left. And you're good, but most of the time you're jumping up. And most of the levels, you can't, it's not like, it's not one of those games where you can just jump straight up and then you just land on the level above you. You've got to avoid that level. So it takes a certain amount of accuracy.
Absolutely.
To do that. And some of the levels aren't even, so a lot of them you can just barely jump up. And then some require, you'll find a spring occasionally or something that can bounce you up.
And sometimes you just take a flying leap and hope for the best.
That's right. And to have up for jump is, again, it's not something I normally complain about. But on this one, Boat, I guess I'm going to be the Boat. I didn't like it. What did you think of the control straight out of the gate?
Well, my cracked version of this actually, I guess, had 3-button control.
Oh, lucky boy.
And so I was able to use, I don't even know how that works. But I don't recall having to use up for jump. I was definitely
I had to use up for jump every time.
I didn't think this game controlled poorly. This game suffers from a couple things that are endemic to Amiga platforming games. Should I go into it? Should I just kick it off, or do you want to give some more background?
No, go ahead. We can always catch back up. I want to hear what you have to say.
So this game is basically it works just like I think New Zealand Story is sort of similar in its level design, in that a lot of the levels are more vertically oriented than horizontally oriented.
All the ones I tried were. Now you said you played every level.
Played every level.
Used the codes.
Yeah.
That's what I did.
And so, and this game has just a million stages per level. I think the game has got 8.
Yeah.
Okay. Just playing on my own, I was unable to get past the first 8 stages, and it really sucked because once I used the codes and saw what the rest of the game had to offer, the other stages are more beautiful than the first.
Starting with this, I believe it's is it Switzerland or Sweden? It's Switzerland, and
I believe it's
starting with that one was a poor choice.
Yeah.
Because you're instantly putting the player in a place where he's got to work with snow and ice,
right?
And that does not help me. I mean, like I said, I watched the Nintendo version, and I was like, and that made so much more sense. I think they're starting in like Jamaica or wherever the Caribbean or whatever they called it.
Yeah. And so that irritated me, but at the same time, it didn't irritate me that much because I had a code where I could jump across levels. The main problem with this game, the number one problem, is that the game does not differentiate where you can pass behind objects in the foreground and where you cannot. So take, for example, the level that we're looking at now, which is in ancient Greece. You've got all these pillars. And some of the pillars you can walk behind, and some of the pillars you can't. And it's very frustrating because there's no reason for it. They don't make them look different. And it was very difficult for me to negotiate my way around these stages, because in every stage there were things like that where you'd see something and you could walk through it in one section but not in another. They have this teleportation system, which, I mean, I guess it's okay, but I would have rather just been able to travel through the level as I pleased. I thought that the net mechanic was neat. I always like games where Wiz and Liz is like this, where you're collecting objects throughout the stage and then you drop them off. In Wiz and Liz, it was a cauldron. In this, it's a box. I thought your enemies were cool. The slug thing that kills you is
the bacteria.
Yeah, the bacteria,
the germs.
Yeah.
I didn't think those were cool when I first saw them.
Well, one thing that I learned rather late in the game is that they are destructible. Though you can kill those things. I didn't realize that at first. And then there's the evil chef that comes and unlocks your cage and all the ingredients escape again. So I thought this game had a lot of good things going for it. This is not the best game of all time, but it's an interesting concept. The art, while the Amiga could have done better, is not bad. I mean, it's pretty. It's colorful. I like this game.
That evil chef, Chef Noir. I like the game too. I will say that. Again, I went into this without reading any docs or watching any playthroughs, and so once I went through and figured out what I was doing and started getting the vegetables and getting all the food, I didn't know what to do with it, and I ran out of time too many times. So I was like, "What do I do with these guys?" And I just happened to walk over that cage, and they all fell in there. I'm like, "Oh, I got it now," you know. But yeah, just to describe, as you go through this game, you have a certain amount of ingredients per level you need to collect. You don't have to collect them all, but you have to have a certain amount of ingredients per level. And then once you get the amount of ingredients and you dump them in the cage, like a mystery door will appear, and you can go through. You can drop the food you've got with you into that cage at any time. You just walk over and drop in. And that's not the worst idea if you can get away with it, because if you get hit by one of the food items, your guy gets dizzy, and the food you've captured sort of staggers off, and you got to hurry try to catch it real quick. It's colorful. I like the tunes in it, and I liked the fact that you could have sound effects and music at the same time, which was nice. The food's okay looking. It's not great.
Yeah, I mean, I would call this a console quality title.
Well,
for sure.
I would have called it that until I saw the Super Nintendo version.
I haven't seen
which
that.
is way better. I mean, it is what it is. And it just looks better, it sounds better, and it looks, I'm assuming it plays better, since I had to use up for jump. I didn't have any of the hacky stuff on mine. So, I think, I remember a couple weeks ago we mentioned this. Sometimes you play a game on the Amiga, and it seems like a bigger deal than it would, but in the scope of console the universe, this would just be another game, you know? Now, you being a big Super Nintendo guy, and you haven't played this or heard of it even, right, before this week. So one would assume that this did not make a huge dent in the Super Nintendo market.
I don't think this came out in the United States.
Okay. I don't know if, I think it did actually. I think I've got the information right here. Let me see here.
It didn't.
It came out on the Super Nintendo in North America in November of '93. So there you go. Oh, didn't know I had the docs right here, did you? But so since I'd never heard of it, I'm going to go on the assumption it wasn't a huge hit. Now, it may have been great. I don't know. But this is another one of those hundreds and hundreds of games on a console that just sort of shows up and is there.
You know, it's funny. I think that I'm pretty sure now that I watch it, it's funny because there are no playthroughs of this on YouTube, no extended playthroughs.
You're right.
What we're watching right now is the footage I recorded.
Right.
Which is hilarious because the people in the chat are ripping me apart, not knowing that it's me playing this.
I was watching them say
They're
that.
like, this guy sucks!
I was saving it to the end of the review before I went, yeah, that's Bo playing.
Yeah. But I was using up for jump, because going through the doors can be very infuriating because you want to go in and the game doesn't register that, so you jump up
the door
to the next level
opens.
up.
Yes.
And so I was using up for jump. It didn't bother me.
This is what happens when you play the game a week ago.
Yeah.
But this game has some interesting elements that they add as you go through. A lot of them, actually, that I just got to touch. You know, it's various points, including stuff like, I mean, it's not like they reinvented the wheel, but you've got pieces of land that disintegrate underneath you. There's teleporters. There's birds and stuff that fly around you can get on top of. Stuff like that. There's bouncing springs and stuff like that. I mean, there's a lot of like, can we call them platforming tropes or whatever? I mean, I guess it's the best way to put it.
I think that's a good way to put it.
With the 2-button thing, what I would have basically liked to have seen happen is just, what I would have done is just made the net automatic and then just let you use up a button for jump. I don't see why the net, I don't
know how you could do that.
Why?
Make the net automatic?
Just have him touch them and he gets them.
Oh, okay. So you're just running over them like Wizenless. Okay,
right.
That makes sense.
Now, my strategy is a lot different than yours. I watched your playthrough as well. I always threw stuff and knocked and dizzied all the food before I went up on it because I was paranoid, so I'd always do it. And so, and as far as I could tell, you've got unlimited projectiles, or if you eat the Tabasco, so you have unlimited fire breath or whatever. So I would just let them fly. Now there are some things positioned on the map that are real tough to get to. There's sort of like a little puzzle element to it, right?
Oh, I'd say there's more than a little. I mean, the later stages are all... There were certain points where I just didn't. I think I'm at one right now in the playthrough where I didn't know how to proceed because I couldn't get up to the ingredients that I needed.
Yeah, you're in China here, I believe. There's a lot of sometimes you'll come across places that have like extra men, but like for example, I could think of one thing in particular where there's like you have to jump from little tiny clops of dirt to get the extra man, and as you jump on them, the dirt disintegrates.
Away, yeah.
So you get basically 1, maybe 2 shots at it. Again, much easier with a proper button for jump than using up for jump. You talk about something I thought was strange in this is that you could jump on the stuff and you could net it. That's kind of weird to me. Why have both? I couldn't figure that out. It just seemed odd.
When you jump on an enemy, you stun it, so it stops moving.
But I mean, you've got the flower as well.
Yeah, I don't think, to be honest with you, if I were making this game, I would just not have those special abilities at all and use that button for jump.
Well, I mean, I can see that. I mean, the special ability, and maybe they play a bigger role at some point in the game. I mean, they're a big role. I use them all the time, but if you can jump on the stuff, I hit it with, and the arc, for example, the flower, when you throw it, it takes a tough arc, and you really have to kind of line your shots up. And what it required me to do was like, jump up and down a lot like an idiot, or jump off stuff. Having up for jump made it real tough lining up those flower shots because I had to get a perfect arc, and so it was tough. And I would often miss ledges. What Boat said I agree with, and some of the stuff you can go through, some of it you can't. It's the same thing with floors. Sometimes you can go up through a certain type of floor. I never could understand I don't understand how that worked.
Yeah, all I want in the game is consistency especially with a platformer. You want things to react the same way all the time, and not being able to jump up through the bottom of a platform. Sometimes you can, and sometimes you can't. That's a real drag.
Now we should mention that the enemy Chef Noir, he comes through and gets hold of your food and makes the food like super evil, basically, and it comes after you. He's a little jerk. Now you can just get rid of him, but if you
is that what he does?
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure that's not what he did to me.
What did he do to you?
He came down to the bottom of the screen where my bin was, and he unlocked the cage, and then all the vegetables just went away.
My thing was he would touch the vegetables, and he would turn them evil.
Maybe I just never saw that.
I never saw him do that. I didn't see Noir ever go down to the.
Are you sure you weren't playing the
screen.
Super Nintendo version this whole time?
I don't have a Super Nintendo that has this on, and I play this on the Amiga. So yeah, I'm pretty good. Unless the Amiga has a Super Nintendo emulator, we're really I'm in business.
Thing.
You can play 2 players, but it's not simultaneous. That's kind of a drag. That'd be kind of cool if you could do 2 at once.
This would be a tough game to do with 2 players, though. It's so vertically based.
Well, I know you said that last time, and you were right then too. So there are several levels. There's Mexico, China, France. You've got Jamaica, which it's funny. I watched 2 different versions of the Jamaica, and neither one of them they were called Jamaica. One is called the West Indies, and one was called the Caribbean, I think. So I don't know. You got me. And you've got Greece, and then you start in Switzerland, which again I think is probably not the smartest move they ever made. How many games do you know that start on the snow level? I can only think of, right off the top of my head, I can think of one. That's not, don't say Cool Borders or something.
Like James Pond?
Okay, I'll give you that one. Okay, I wasn't even thinking about that one. I was thinking about X-Men on the Genesis does that at the very beginning. Yeah, I know. But I guess... where would you rank this, Boatster, in the pantheon? I mean, it does what it does pretty well, and it is an attractive game. Yeah. I mean, I think it looks pretty good. The little guy's cute. He's about, in terms of the pantheon of characters. This guy's nowhere near the bottom of some of the horrible bully cavemen and other crap.
Yeah, I mean, he's fine.
I like the concept of the food. Like you said, there's never really been a bad game about getting food. Pretty cool. So, I mean, do you like this? Do you not like it? Would you play it again?
Yeah, I'm kind of curious to check out the Super Nintendo version now that I want to see what it looks like. I think that it's definitely a game that, from its roots on the Game Boy, if that's true, it's a game that was ideally suited for that platform because it is that sort of a puzzle platformer, not too complicated thing. Am I going to go out and play this again right away? Probably not. To me, the game that is most like this is Wiz and Liz, and I like Wiz and Liz a whole lot more than this.
Well, Wiz and Liz had a couple aspects that can't be beat. the the store and the spell making stuff. Plus, it's just that was another insufferably cute game. It was I liked it. So it's been a while since we played that one, but I think I did like that one more than I did this one. This one's not bad though. And on the Amiga, if you take the consoles out of it, I mean, this is a perfectly serviceable. There's nothing wrong with it. I think it's fun. But again, I would rather have the button for jump.
Yeah. And the thing is, I mean, you know, right now in the chat, there's a big discussion going on about how Americans, you know, complain about it all the time. But guess what? The Americans didn't invent it. It was the Japanese. And the reason why the Japanese invented it is because it's a more efficient way to play the games.
Up for jump?
No, button for jump.
Button for jump, yeah.
Because it's a better way to control things, because you have a lot more control when you have a button that does an action. When say you're trying to move forward and jump at the same time. There's no way you can be as precise if you're moving forward and jumping at the same time with up for jump than without it.
Well, there are certain games that I can tolerate it more. I mean,
and I mean, I can tolerate it anywhere. Yeah. But if given the choice, then there's no reason to choose up for jump. The reason why it was the standard for so long in computers is because computers only had one button for forever.
In most games it doesn't bother me, but when you get these games where there's a precise landing involved, again, I go back to the when that Earth is disappearing under you. I mean, you can imagine playing just. Flip it over. Play Mario World with up for jump.
Right.
You'd be dead a billion times.
Yeah.
You know, you need that precise control that you get from the button. So I'm agreeing with you a lot today. I don't know what that means. So this game reviewed pretty well, Boatster. Amiga. Well, first of all, I should go right. I added one this week because I know you love it. So Lemon gives the I always like when this happens. Lemon gives the AGA version of this a 7.96. Pretty high. They give the CD32 version 7.71. A little lower. Kind of weird. I went and found this on Obligement. You remember that, the magazine from France?
Yeah.
That's right. I translated the article and read it. And the fellow that wrote it had a very similar thought to what we had. He gave it 6 out of 10. And then contemporary ratings of this back in the day gave it, Amiga Action gave it an 89, Amiga Dream gave it a 73, Amiga Format 88, Amiga Joker 76, Amiga Magazine 8 out of 10, Amiga Power 76. So you get the idea. The one gave it a 90. So mostly in the 80s. I'd say that's,
That's where I'd put it. I'd put this in the
70s. I mean,
to the
80s.
For a game of this type, there are a few examples that are better.
Now, the eBay on this, I found a box copy in the U.S. For $30 or best offer. Not bad. I think it was free shipping, too. In the UK, I found a lot, between 16 and 30 bucks. And in France, I found one going for $10. So, and this may have done pretty good business over in Europe. But I mean, I can see, I know you love these sorts of, you love this kind of stuff. You're more of a guy that likes this than I do.
I don't know about that. I'm not sure that I like this as much as you think I do.
Well, I'm not, but I mean, this style of gameplay. Now, if this was a one-screen game, you'd be all over it.
Yeah. it would be a better game if it were one.
Well, it depends on how they did it. But this strikes me as something that would probably get over better in Europe than it would here. I don't know why. Some games I get that feeling. I think this is one that I get that feeling on.
Well, given the popularity of Rainbow Islands, which is very similar to this sort of thing, that's probably true.
Yeah. So, an interesting game. There's one thing I did not mention, and we mentioned the sound. The fellow that did the sound on this is Mark Knight, and he is this was pretty good. He did, among other things, he did the sound in Wing Commander, SimCity 2000. And Alpha Chicken, which we like to sound that too. So good sound. It's a good game.
Yeah.
I thought it was above middle of the road.
Yeah. All right, Aaron. We have some winners from last week's Patreon song challenge.
I know one guy that probably didn't enter.
Oh yeah. Simon Letch, for whatever reason, decided not to throw his hat in the ring. So last week, do you remember the song?
No. It
was Yoda by Weird Al Yankovic.
Yes. Well, now you're getting nasty.
So thank you to Darren Coles, Duncan Stiles, Paul Harrington, Paul Kitching, both Pauls getting involved, Edvin Hellon, Jonas Rullo, Colin 419, Dell is Dreamy, and Chris Folds.
Did any of them actually say Yoda?
None of them say
Okay,
Yoda.
because I was going to be utterly appalled.
You know, I knew...
And I love that song. But...
you know, Yoda was the first for me. I knew Yoda for years before I knew Load.
I told Bo that the funny thing was when he sang that, I laughed because on the ARG Present show we did pinball a couple weeks ago, and one of the pinball machines was Taxi, who had a character in it named Lola, and the character was named after that song because she was sort of Manny looking. So it was just almost timely when you picked that.
As timely as yesterday's ARG Presents. So this week, Aaron, I've got a new song, and if you want to guess it, you can. Right. It's if you want to enter via email, you can send me an email.
I'm eligible to enter.
You're eligible,
and
to
you'll
enter.
give me a shout out.
Must be present to win.
Okay.
Usually make. You can send me an email at john@amigospodcast.com, and we're going to kick it off right now. Here we go, and we got a new Patreon this week, just today. So welcome, Daniel Williams, newest Amigos supporter.
Thank you, man.
Here we go. Maybe we need some hand claps. It could go anywhere from here. Daniel Williams, Robert Edgerton, Simon Rose, Joseph Harrison, Kyle Hetter, Rob O'Hara, Howard Nibbs, Matthew Larimore, Andy Craig, Shanzo, Darren Lomax, Colin 419, Barkbit, Roland Berg, Andrew Monks, Joe the Zombie, John Cook, Dan Ross, Leaf Kalan, Alan Kebab, Checo Day, Levelord, John Marshall, Matthew Perro, Ricky DeRocha, Crippy Dead Boy, Figgy CTZ the Slow, Norris Stefan, Sorgord Mortensen, Evan Hilland, Blendo 75, Christopher Hassel, Ravi Abbott, Chris Foles, Dreamcatcher, Lauren Giroux, Grant Vebke, Brent Dowdy, Lane Denson, Adam Battersby, O'Brien's Retro Vintage, Gary Huckersey, Brian Jones, Paul Harrington, wow. Duncan Stiles, Alan Kebab, Anthony Chavez, Tapes from the Crypt, Josh Nan, Adam Bradley, Jonas Rullo, THT, Eric Nelson, Kevdami, Humberstad, Daniel Bigston, Bruto Barracuda, Darren Coles, Jason Warren, Pixel Dawn, and Bjorn Barman.
Man. Throw out a song there at the end?
No, I planned it that way from the beginning.
Man, that was a travesty.
Well, thank you. I always appreciate.
What was that guy's name?
Don Bluth.
What? No, the emailer.
Oh, I don't know.
Don Bluth? Where'd you get that at?
I thought you were talking about Don Bluth.
I like Don Bluth, but no.
That's why.
I'm sure he'd be appalled by that song too.
Next week, Aaron, we're going to turn the dial to the right, all the way to the racing channel, all the way to Sky Sports.
The racing channel?
Yep.
That's the channel I'm on all the time.
I'm built for comfort,
it's
not
indie
speed.
season.
So we are going to play, chosen for us by the Amigos Game Selection Committee, Microprose Formula One Grand Prix Racing.
I have time. I have some knowledge of this. I believe I played this on the old PC back in the day. Okay, yeah. F1. What you said it was? Formula One.
Formula One. Formula One.
All right,
so,
man.
just in case you were wondering, we do record this show live every Friday, except when we don't. But it's been pretty
consistent
for a while now.
We're due. With the holidays coming, it's almost over.
So you can hang out in the chat with all the folks. Duncan Stiles is here, Necronom, Michael Ryan, Paul H., Henrik Anderson, Pixels at Dawn. Looks like maybe that's it. I guess there were some people hanging around later, but sometimes people tend to jump off right before the song starts. I don't know why that is. I think they want to grab their pencil so they can copy down the correct answer and submit it.
Is that what it is? Why would you need a pencil? It's email.
Hey, man. You do your thing, I'll do mine. All right, Aaron. We will see you next week, folks. Until then, adios. All right.
Man, that was appalling. And the sad thing is, it took me a minute. I was like, surely he's not. Oh, no. Oh, dear God, no. And you're a big fan.
I just finished watching this 3.5-hour documentary on Amazon on George Harrison.
Uh-huh.
Man, it was long.
I like George.
George is a good guy. I don't know that he deserved 3.5 hours, though. It was a little.
He's no Ringo,
no,
that's for sure.
I'd watch a 3-hour documentary on Ringo.
Ringo's done. He could have a series based on his life.
He should have a reality series.
It's funny. You look at the Beatles, and he's the one that made it big, stayed big his entire career. Everyone wants to play with him. He's always touring. He's always making money.
Well, I don't know that you'd say that he was the only one that made it big throughout his career.
Hey, who would you rather be right now? I mean, look at him. Now look at the ones that are look at Paul. I was going to say look at George, but George isn't looking too good these days. I'm just saying Ringo still he hasn't really changed that much for a long time. He looks good, man.
Yeah, Ringo does look better than Paul. That's for sure. Paul's had some good work done though. He's had some smoothing features.
We're not there yet, technology wise, to make that happen. He's had a rough. He's looks like a bunch of rough road.
It's amazing that those guys still tour. Like Paul's out there like 300 nights a year.
It doesn't amaze me. It's like because if someone said, "Hey, Boat, will you come here and we'll give you a dump truck full of money?"
Not when I've got 15,000 dump trucks full of money back at the pad.
It's hard to say no to a dump truck full of money.
I wouldn't know. No one's.
Plus, probably these guys probably like to perform. Melissa, you're a band guy.
Oh yeah.
Which that made it all the funnier when you lost time as you were clapping.
Hey man, it is difficult to do what I do. I'd like to see you try this. You couldn't even read the names the one week I asked you to do it.
I could read them.
No, you couldn't. You got messed up multiple times.
I don't remember that.
All right. Do you want to do insert this to you? Or do you got to scoot? It's 6 o'clock.
We can do a short one.
Okay.
Do you have something?
We got a Google Doc with some topics on it.
All right. Hi guys. Ringo was grading Caveman. Correct. The bit where they discovered music at the campfire.
I've never seen Caveman.
Wow. You never seen Caveman?
Is that a must watch? Should I watch that?
Absolutely. Here's the best part. I'm going to give you the secret hilarity.
Okay.
It's a movie about cavemen.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Everyone in the movie speaks caveman, except for one guy. There's a guy there from Japan. He speaks perfect English, and he doesn't know what anyone else is saying. That right there is the joke.
Okay.
Steve gets it.
That's great, Henrik. Isn't that from SNL? I seem to remember that. Do we have a picture of Paul McCartney? And then it's a picture of Angela Lansbury. Okay. So.
Whoa.
I know.
Don't do that.
The world's turned upside down. I've got to hide. I was distracted that whole episode because I had the chat up.
I can't read the chat, so it doesn't matter.
I can't be like that. Craig Ferguson. Okay. Okay.
Do I get to know the topic, or
yeah? I'm gonna read it to you.
Okay, go ahead. This is where I just lean back, just like last week, and just.
Unfortunately, would you like me to give you one of these?
I would.
Okay, I will. I love how they make this all camo. You know, I guess the cans aren't camo, but that is like half camo. You can tell they're marketing this heavily in West Virginia, the Mountain Dew mouth capital of the world.
All right, I'm ready.
All right. So, Aaron, this comes in from Discord.
I know him.
So, the question is, what will happen in 20 years when people want to play today's games, which rely on updates and patches to fix bugs? Will Sony, etc., keep them available for old hardware to download, or will we get them another way?
You want to start on this? I've got instant feelings, I can tell you right now.
That's what I want. I want it raw.
Remember last week when I just screamed to start the show? I'm going to try to be more dignified this week. It's already happening. You don't need 20 years. It's happened, we're getting screwed. I want to play City of Heroes with my kid. I want to play it right now. I can't play it right now because they took it down. There's no getting it back. So if you're an MMO fan, you're insta-screwed. I found this show this week, and it goes over what killed these MMOs. And there are MMOs I totally forgot about that people were very passionate about at the time. So it's happened. What's going to happen in 20 years? Really, it depends on... 20 years isn't that long a time. It really is when you sit down and think about what you were doing 20 years ago. A lot of it depends on how generous the owners of the game want to be or are able to be. In 20 years, if you want to play EverQuest 1, which it's still up, but I doubt it'll be up in 20 years, you're going to need someone to provide server and someone to provide that code to get everything running. And if you don't have it, you're not going to be playing EverQuest. If you want to play, I mean, there were games in the 90s that needed patches and stuff right away. They were unplayable. And if you can't access them, you're screwed. It's a little bit easier with that stuff because most of it's documented and held up. But the patches today are sometimes 10 gig. So someone's got to store all this stuff, then give you the access to it. So I don't see a retro gaming scene like there is today. And it's not because they're not as passionate about their games. It's just it'll be so very, very inconvenient. And I don't know what can be done about it. There's no way you can really... I mean, I suppose someone could archive a fully patched game and keep it somewhere. I mean, there are people that specialize this, like their life's work is to archive stuff. We've heard Rob talk about archiving all those C64 discs, and he's backed them all up or whatever. It's probably, a lot of it's probably needless because the stuff's out there, but people like him are the stewards of that stuff. And so one would assume that somewhere there is someone that is working to save some of these games, but I don't know for sure that that's happening.
It's interesting that you mentioned that because another thing we were talking about on Discord is that they've just passed a law that says that it's now legal, and this is a United States law, it's now legal to back up and keep code related to MMOs that have gone under.
I saw that, yeah.
And so things are starting to happen in that direction, but like you said, it's too late for a lot of these games. You know,
Yeah.
who knows if any of like the City of Heroes stuff, who knows, maybe all that stuff is just gone forever.
Yeah.
Maybe who was the company that ran it? NCSoft? Or
Yeah.
Yeah.
They were out of, I think they were South Korean.
So maybe when they went under or when they got bought or
They
whatever.
didn't do either of those. They just took it down because it was not a big hit in Korea.
So maybe that code still exists out there somewhere.
One would assume, and that's a whole other story. But in terms of a non-MMO game, really, it's funny because now every game is like an MMO in that everything gets patched. Some of the patches are so vital that the game is pointless without them. And so when you go into that world, you're into the world where you might not be playing your game. Even something like that, if you look at the Nintendo Switch, which has that little hard card that they store the games on, they still patch stuff, you know, and so they're not even invulnerable. The rest of it, anything that's like it's downloadable content or whatever, I mean, unless it's archived somewhere, it's probably going to be gone.
Well, you know, I'm going to give you the other side.
All right.
Okay. The other side is that because of digital distribution, fewer games will go out of print and leave the public eye completely. Now, the exception to that is any kind of multiplayer mode. You know, I think what we're going to see is a future where the single-player campaign for minigames still exists in one form or another, but anything that requires an external server to keep running, if that is not making money somehow, you won't see it again.
Well, that's very likely.
Because with Steam and things like that, you know, publishers can leave games in print forever, and because of the long tail, they'll probably continue to sell to some greater or lesser extent.
Yeah.
And what you will see is you'll see more and more great deals where, you know, 5 years after a game is out, you'll be able to buy it for 99 cents.
Yeah, yeah.
So I think that we could go one of two ways, but I think the people that are going to suffer the most are going to be, like you said, the MMO fans, because they're going to get really attached to a particular world, and when that world is no longer profitable to maintain, there's no fail-safe to keep that going.
I think, but I mean, getting back to, I think a lot of games are, how many games, we don't know what's patched in these games, okay? how many games have you heard? I've heard this over and over, and I don't play a lot of modern stuff, but I've heard this from my brother. I listen to other podcasts.
Mm-hmm.
I went and bought Game X for my PS3, PS4, Xbox One, whatever. But when I got home and put it in, there was a 30-minute download or an hour download. You know, so what is on that disc? Probably whatever is on there is not a playable game.
I don't think so. I think what you're seeing is the cumulative effect of many, many patches over a set amount of time. The game itself is going to be playable. Is it going to be as good of an experience as if you're playing the patched game? Maybe not. But there's been very, very few times where publishers have shipped a broken game right out of the factory.
I think I agree with that up to a point. I think it's becoming more commonplace.
Well, I think it's definitely become more acceptable to let certain things slide in the development process in the knowledge that you're going to be able to patch it later on.
Right.
But just to put a disk in your system and not be able to fire it up at all, or to have some sort of like one of these, you know, Action 52 NES type experiences where the game is just broken.
Remember the controversy a few years ago where they were requiring an internet connection to play your game console?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And that was a big deal.
Well, it wasn't to play the game console. It was to play games that you'd bought digitally. No.
That's not what I mean. I mean, the console would check in. It would check in. That was part of it. And when you when you put in a disc, that's another aspect of that worries me. And also, you don't hear much about that now. And there's a reason. It's because digital distribution has become more. I mean, this was inevitable. People are more comfortable than they were a generation of consoles ago about getting stuff digitally with no box and no cartridge and no disc. All right, you don't think twice about it now. And what got you there? Just what you said: cheap games. You know, everyone's got a Steam list with a bunch of games on it, and so it makes a scenario where you lose all your stuff quite possible.
Well,
you know.
Well, I mean, sure. I mean, you could lose all your stuff just like your home could go up in flames. I mean, it's possible, but it's not probable. I mean, Steam is not going anywhere for the foreseeable future. And as long as you have Steam, then you have your library. One of the other things besides the cheapness of digital downloads is the convenience that you can go to any PC, log into your Steam account, and download your games.
But you did say 20 years. Steam is very viable right now, but who knows what's going to happen in 20 years?
Nobody knows, but
you know. So now, and I think Steam also. I wasn't singling them out per se, but I think Steam has an angle where you can actually put the game on your computer somehow, download the game to your computer. I looked into this a couple years now. I don't know about now, but there was a time where like you could actually have the game on your computer without having to be, in case they would ever go away. All right.
Okay. I don't know anything about that.
Yeah, and well, me and Chad and some other paranoid people looked into it. We're not the only ones. But a smaller service could come and go, and I mean, let's look at the Pinball Arcade people. Now, you can no longer get those tables, but if you own them, you keep them.
Right.
All right.
So nothing has been lost.
But if you're if they were to go under, for example. There's a very conceivable possibility that once the console you had those games on went out, you were done with them. And if you had the original disc you bought, it didn't come with all the extra tables. I mean, these are possibilities.
Again, this has never. I mean, I don't want to say this has never happened before, but this is not like, for example, remember there was a famous case is like Double Dragon. There was a Double Dragon remake that came out on the 360. That the company went under.
Is that Neon?
Yeah.
Oh man.
I can't. Don't.
I heard that was
don't
horrible.
write in if that's wrong. It was some Double Dragon.
Right
game.
in.
The company went under. You were unable to rebuy the. You were unable to buy the game again, and even if you had downloaded the game previously, you could not re-download it. That would still require you to erase the game from your memory card on your 360. So, you know, it's easy to imagine a world where like stuff like this happens and everything goes wrong. But we haven't seen that except really for MMOs and except for Call of Duty style like a deathmatch multiplayer.
Right. But I mean, in 10 or 20 years, then when this stuff's failing, then you're not going to probably you may or may not. I never like to say there's no way you're getting it back, because I know sneaky, stinky pirate types or archivists are coming up with ways to store this stuff. So but I would say there's probably a future version where it's going to be, it's not going to be something you can just obtain easily and without some additional knowledge. Just go out and play your game.
I think that in 10 or 20 years, video game companies will have become so good at monetization that they'll figure out a way to serve anybody that wants to play anything, anytime. You know, they'll say, you can still buy that from us. You know, it won't be like downloading TOSEC packs from the Internet Archive like it is now.
Let me ask you a question. A lot of people, and this is along the same lines, let's look backwards now. A lot of people and the retro movement has been around for a long time. Mm-hmm. It's strong now. It's always been pretty strong, but now it's really strong. How much of that do you attribute to, this is a two-part question, how much of the current strength of the retro movement do you attribute to people's ability to play these things with emulation over the past, say, 20 years? Percentage-wise, do you think it's 50% of it's strictly because of that, or none of it's because of that? Where do you put the importance? Because I've heard this batted around quite a bit.
That's a great question. I think the number of people that enjoy retro titles that are playing them, the number of people out there that are into retro games that are playing them through some sort of emulation is probably pretty high.
But I'm not even saying that. What I'm saying is, how big a part did emulated classic ROMs play in the current popularity of retro gaming? That's what I want. Because people, anytime a ROM site gets shut down or something, I hear this, oh man, if it wasn't for us, there would be no market for this. And you've heard this before too.
I don't buy that.
But I mean,
I think that, for example, if everybody was playing on emulators all the time, then the NES Mini wouldn't have sold 18 billion units. You know, there's a market for people that...
It was released at the right time, though, wasn't it? Don't you think? I mean, because there was a strong retro movement before that was released.
No, I mean, before then you had the Jack-specific plug-and-play games. You know, the Space Invaders. There have always been people that enjoyed playing video games when they were younger, and when they see a new thing come out, they're like, oh, I haven't played that in years. I want to buy that. Versus your person that, sits in front of a PC and goes through... Because for a lot of people, even just the whole concept of emulation is beyond the trouble that they want to go through to play something.
Right. So what you're saying is, if I got this right, is that you don't think emulation, the hardcore retro gaming fans that sprung up in the early 90s and ran till today... had a whole lot to do with the current retro movement that is in full swing, and they're making money hand over fist.
That's correct.
Okay.
What do you think?
Unpopularly, I would tend to agree with you. I think what played a bigger role is time. The age of the people got right. If you consider, listen, I love the Atari 2600, okay? And I even like Pong back in the day. But I wasn't overly anxious to go out and re-experience those games, all right? Now, I'm not saying anything bad about it, and there are some great ones. But the era of the Nintendo, the Genesis, that era, not only is it tickle that retro days of old, but also the games hold up. They hold up well. They look good enough to be fun today and show good on your TV, and it's a retro thing. And I think that is the biggest part of the movement, not so much that there was this, there's this, and you've heard it, but there's this weird feeling that people have that and are mad at Nintendo or mad at these other companies because they've taken these ROMs down. It's like, how dare they? We built their business. Well, not really.
Right.
In my opinion.
We built their business if their business was giving us all their intellectual property and letting us distribute it freely across the internet.
I'm not going to be mean to these people because in fact, maybe I've had that in my head before.
And all these people saying we, I guarantee you that 99.999% of them were not involved in any sort of development of the emulator or dumping the
I'm not
cards.
even saying that. But what I'm saying is, when like that MU Paradise went down, I think Nintendo shut down their ROMs section, for example. And this happens every couple years. You know, if you've been in this as long as I have. And I've heard this argument before that, like, if it wasn't for us, we built the community, we with the conventions, we made it popular. I mean, I'm not discounting all of that, but I'm saying, and I think it was a very, very small percentage of the overall appeal. I think it's just some people were more passionate about it and held on to it harder, and they kept at it. They found a way to do it and play it. But like you said, the majority of people, they don't know what emulation is. Right. They don't, and I mean, look, you know what emulation is, and you wanted these little mini things. You know, why did you want them? Because you're nostalgic. You may have your other reasons. You could say I want to support or whatever, but I mean, you wanted one because they're cool looking. You like it. It reminds you of the old days, right? Yeah. I mean, that's and it has nothing to do with the retro community of ROM players out there. I mean, I'm not undercutting or discounting the emulation people that put that stuff together because they're incredible, but I'm just saying, I just think that has played a small role in the overall appeal. Now, all that aside, switching back to the modern stuff, we live in a world now where you can literally play any game you want, if you want to, from the beginning of games up until the current day stuff. Will this continue? In 20 years, we may be able to play anything. Storage-wise, we'll probably be able to store whatever we want.
Well, right? There won't be storage. Everything will be streamed from the cloud.
That's still storage.
Well,
my point is, you'll have access to an unlimited amount of data.
Sure.
So that won't be an issue.
Yeah.
So technology willing, theoretically, if we're playing everything we want to now, we probably will be able to do the same thing then. If again, the only thing that's going to stop it is lawyers and or you know, people that have digital rights stuff going on where they don't want it distributed. I think that's going to be the key. So if you get past that, I don't think there'll be a problem.
And I think, you know, I'm not really the best person to ask about this because for me, my best gaming days and my favorite games and all of that stuff is all behind me. Like, I am not playing modern games. I have no interest in 99% of all the games that are currently released. So, like, if we can't play Xbox 360 games 20 years from now, I'm not going to care. Like, because the stuff that I want to play forever is the stuff I can play now. But I know that there's lots of people that are very passionate about current day stuff, and they worry about that stuff for the future. And I feel bad for them because you really don't know, but I take some comfort in the fact that I'll always be able to play NES games and Super Nintendo games and Amiga games.
The thing I wonder, you know, I guess people are nostalgic forever, all right, going forward. I wonder how nostalgic people are going to be in 20 years for games out now. This is not an indictment of those games because their games are great. A lot of them are really good. But I just wonder if people are going to have the same makeup because these people are going to be growing up at a different age. When I was a little kid, video games came around. It was like a revelation. You'd never see anything like it, okay? My son has access to a tablet, a computer, the Switch, an arcade, every game ever made. He can play. Plus, he's in a world where there's virtual reality. He's in a world where he's limitless in what he can do, you know, all the channels he wants. So how big an impact is this stuff going to have on his life versus the impact it had on people who didn't have anything but Nintendo, for example?
Here's something else about that. You know, there were tons of people that grew up in the same generation as you, that video games were a part of their youth, but then once they grew up, they stopped playing them and they moved on.
Yeah.
I think you're going to have the same thing with people in your son's generation where, you know, maybe video games will affect him in some profound way and he'll want to hold on to it forever, or maybe he'll play around with video games for a while and then he'll find some passion somewhere else and he'll never come back.
I just want, you know, we didn't grow up with the internet, for example. I mean, there are big facets. There are so many more avenues of entertainment than there were. I wonder, I mean, I'm not saying people aren't going to be passionate about games. I just wonder if they're going to have a more diverse, you know, nostalgia feeling when they go back. And boy, I'd like to see what a CRT looks like again. Something like, you know, I mean, just as an example, you know. So in the future, in 20 years, who knows what even the demand for retro is going to be? I mean, it may be super huge. I don't know. I'm just speculating.
I think if you've got to look at the way that things have always been. The way I look at it is like the birth of pop culture. It was like the 50s and the 60s, So you have all these people that grow up with the Beatles and stuff like that, and then when they get money, what do they want to buy? They want to buy all the Beatles records and the Elvis records, so the prices go through the roof, And that goes up until we get to like you don't really see it, I guess. I don't know. I'm not involved in the classic movie scene. It's not like people are collecting, vintage stuff because the resolution keeps getting better with Blu-rays and stuff like that. So I don't know how
people do collect it, though.
Yeah. But I mean, with video games, I kind of see more akin to the record collecting phenomenon, where there's this memory of them when they were a kid with this thing. They don't have the thing for a while, then they see the thing in a store, they see the thing online, and they want it because it recaptures that memory.
I don't know. Everyone I knew used to collect baseball cards. Right? How many people collect them now? Well, not nearly as many. I know they still do, but they're not. It's way down. Things come and go.
Yeah, and maybe you're right, but I don't think that video game collecting or people liking video games throughout their lives, that is not going to go away.
Maybe not.
It just may not be to the degree that it is now, or maybe it'll be bigger.
But you're assuming Super Duper Thing 5000 doesn't come out in 10 years. That makes you forget about all this other crap. You never know. Super Duper Thing 5000 for me was video games and computers. I don't know what before that stuff came around. What were my interests? I liked dinosaurs and stuff. I'm just saying. I'm not saying you're wrong. It's going to be a lot of it's dependent on just what happens in the next 10 years or 20 years. But I think there'll be there's always going to be somebody passionate about games. That's for sure.
Mm-hmm. All right,
that's it.
Let's see. Let's check in with the chat real quick and see what they've got to say.
I got to go. That was a think piece, Boat. Bye, guys.
See you later. Have a good evening, guys.
Thanks for hanging and/or banging.